Hello guys, I hope you're doing well. I'm Ollie. If you enjoy a good Reddit story, feel free to hit that subscribe button. I won't stop you. Right then, let's crack on with our first story of the day. Our first story of the day comes from Icy University 963 in the Am I the Asshole subreddit, and it says, "My wife, who wants a divorce, is angry that I am moving out. Am I the a-hole?" Update. My wife and I started the process of separation late last year, at her request. The living situation has become very challenging. Some basic information. My wife and I have been married for close to 7 years in California. We are in our late 30s. She has decided that she wants to find out who she is away from me and wants to divorce to start over, and maybe we will find each other again. She feels since I've always given her everything, she has become useless as a human and can't contribute to our relationship. She says she still loves and respects me, but wants more from our relationship and from herself. We have no children. I don't want a divorce, but she is pretty determined at this point. I have always been the primary breadwinner of the household and support her in any endeavors she pursues, from photography, painting, design, plants, etc. She was always trying to find a new path. She works odd jobs at this point and brings in maybe less than $10,000 to the household per year. When we got together, she was burnt out on a career and started trying to find a new path. She has made it clear she doesn't want anything from our assets, as it would be stealing my effort. We own 4 properties, 2 cars, paid off, about $600,000 plus in investments, with no debt other than mortgages. I've brought this up multiple times that we can divide our assets to get her started, but she is very against it. Her family is fairly wealthy from outside the USA, and she wouldn't have trouble getting decent financial support from them. Her therapist convinced her to do a trial separation before committing to divorce. When we started the separation process, it was very difficult to be in the same house together. She said she wants to move out, and I supported her in this. The primary issue is she doesn't have much money, $500 in her private checking, so I told her she could have whatever she wanted. We had over $80,000 in our savings at the time and said she could get started with that. She refused. She said the money was my effort and it would be stealing. Despite my efforts of telling her it's our money and not my money, she continued to decline. I said that I could loan her the money, but she refused and said I was manipulating her to take money and would have more control over her. She said she wanted to save up and move out. My heart was breaking every day staying in the house. While not working, I would just lay in bed and cry. I decided to stay with family in Indiana for a while. She was upset by this, as she said she was the one that was supposed to leave the house. I told her she wasn't making progress quick enough to move out, and I needed to leave because I was really sad and depressed. While I was visiting family, I made the decision to buy a very small condo close to my family. I figured I could live closer to family and she could stay in the current house until she was ready to figure out what she wanted to do. I consulted her about me moving. At first, she was supportive of this, but was still upset that she would stay in the house and rely on me to pay the mortgage. I offered money again and told her to set all the terms, but was just met with hostility. She told me I was being controlling and manipulative. When I asked her to clarify how she viewed I was doing that, or I would express that it was not my intention, she would get more upset. Things just remained static for some time. A couple of weeks ago, I came back to our house to pack the remainder of my belongings. Our relationship seemed to be doing well and even seemed like we might pull through this. Then she just broke down tonight. She said it's not fair that I have money and can move away, that I'm disrespectful towards her, that I can just throw money around and go have fun. I said I didn't view moving as fun, and starting in a new city where I have very few connections is going to be difficult for me. I told her I wasn't trying to be disrespectful and asked how I can support or what are some options we can move forward with. She just kept coming back to how angry she is with me. I figured maybe she was just really upset and just needed to vent, so I did my best to listen and empathize with her viewpoint. After her attacks started to get more personal and mean, I asked her what my options are. She yelled at me saying that she doesn't care about my options. It's her options she's concerned about, and she feels like she doesn't have any. So she is angry at me and calls me an asshole for moving while she feels stuck. After that portion of the conversation, she told me she just wants to cry in peace and wishes she could go get a hotel for the night. I offered that I could leave to stay somewhere else for the night or pay for her hotel. She started yelling at me that I'm an asshole, that I'm trying to steal her wish of staying at a hotel. She started saying some pretty mean things, and I didn't like how she was treating me, name-calling. So I told her I was going for a walk. She mockingly told me to go stay at a hotel and have fun. I walked to a diner to have a cup of coffee and read a book. She called me about an hour later, asking where I was. I told her, and she responded, "So, are you spending the night there? I'm going to bed," and then hung up. That was around 8:45 p.m. I walked back to the house, and she went to bed when I got home. Am I doing something wrong by moving? I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Thanks for all the support and feedback so far. Just a note on mental health and therapy. My wife was recently diagnosed to have bipolar 2. She is very skeptical of the diagnosis and refuses medication. I haven't done well in understanding this mental health issue. We started marriage therapy in November, but only lasted a few sessions. She said the therapist took my side too much. Managed to convince her to do individual therapy. She told me recently that she might not go anymore. My wife had tried a variety of therapists in our years together, but usually stops after a month or two because she thinks they are dumb. Edit 2. There has been a ton of constructive input. I thank you for that. It's a lot to read, but I'm trying to read it all. I want to mention a few things about jobs, family, and divorce. Before we were married, she had a strong, successful career for over 10 years. She was extremely burnt out and decided to find a new career. She's been doing that since we've been together and generally won't settle for basic jobs. She's trying to find something to advance her career paths, but with little success. On family, she doesn't have the most supportive family. They make her out to be the bad guy, which makes her angry. If she stayed with her family, I think it would do more harm than good. I've messaged her father asking him to be supportive of his daughter, but I know they are upset as well. On divorce, I've been dragging my feet on this. I keep telling myself it might get better, that I can be a better husband and she can be a better wife. I know it seems delusional at this point, but divorce is not something I wanted, and I struggle to get my mind there. It's hard to see my wife as a mean or vindictive person. I've always tried to see the amazing things in her and to be supportive. There are moments in these past months where she tells me she is crazy and she's hurting me. She has moments of reflection and grief on how she reacts to the situations. So I get hooked back in that this can still be resolved. Edit 3. She approached me this morning. She apologized for the way she treated me yesterday. She said she thinks it's better that I do move out and that she thinks she isn't good for me. I didn't say much and just agreed with her. When I started to agree with her, she started to backtrack and started to get mad again. Going back to last night's issues, and she left crying and blaming me again. Story time. I feel like she isn't getting a completely fair shake in all this. I made this thread specifically about her anger towards me for moving out. But I'm not innocent in our relationship and have been far from the perfect husband. This will be a long read, so feel free to ignore. I'm going to cover how and why we got married, our perspectives on marriage, and a brief timeline that led us here. My perspective on a healthy marriage is we are each confident in ourselves. We want each other and not need each other. We support each other and cheer each other on. We are there to help bring out better versions of ourselves. We listen, empathize, and respect one another. Her perspective, that I learned much later, is that we need to create a family together. Not with kids, but that we have a life project such as having the same jobs or hobbies. That we are always with each other in every moment. That we move slowly in life. An example she likes to use is that if we are walking in a park, there should be moments where we see a beautiful plant and sit there and contemplate the plant. That we are always on the move, exploring our surroundings. That we have the same schedules, as in, when she gets up, I get up, and when she goes to bed, I go to bed. Some people viewed our relationship as a Hallmark story. She was a foreign exchange student at my dad's house 22 years ago. I lived with my mum and would visit my dad. We had crushes on each other and she invited me to prom. We dated very briefly before she went back to her home country. We fell out of contact when we went to college. Fast forward 15 years, my dad had cancer and he is going to unalive. I reached out to her, asking if she wanted to say any goodbyes. We start talking a lot, and she decides to come see him in person. We fall madly in love, bringing us back to our teenage years. My dad recovers, or so we think. We want to stay together and not worry about long distance, so we get married. 2 weeks after that, my dad unalived. I tried to be the stable person for my family and never really had a chance to grieve, nor did I go to therapy. When we first got together, I didn't need to work much. We were very active physically and mentally. A few months after my dad died, we went on a road trip with friends, and one of them unalived in a motorcycle accident. I felt like I was surrounded by unalive. I didn't go to therapy, and I reverted into a computer screen. I played lots of games to distract myself. We still did a lot of things together and travelled a fair amount, but not up to her standards. I didn't really explore the city much with her, and wasn't good at getting her involved in my friend circle. At one point, I told her it's important she makes her own friends. My friend circle at the time were all co-workers. She expressed her concerns to me about gaming and exploring the city, and I took what she said seriously. I said I need help working through this and want her patience and support. I unfortunately didn't get that. Fast forward, and I think things are getting better. When I ask her, she says things are better, but in reality, she's harbouring loads of resentment. The pandemic hits. We are with each other 24/7, and I work remotely. The pandemic was kind of fun for the first 6 months. We created a cafe on our back patio where we were the only guests. We had Netflix binge days, board games, and family Zoom calls. I'm getting bored out of my mind at some point and play a lot of games again. I think this is okay because she is watching TV, handcrafts, etc. Later, I find out she wanted us to be doing a family project together. Not something we are both interested in, but something she is passionate about. So, in this case, breakfast was extremely important to her. So I made adjustments to get up earlier to start making breakfast with her. The theme here is if she is bothered by something, I do my best to adjust within reason. I'm far from perfect in this, and I do fail, but always try again. I'm a fairly introspective person and want to become a better human and husband. The main issue overall with this is that even when I adjust, she still holds resentment. Also, an important bit of information. My wife has some medical issues that knock her out of commission for about 5 to 7 days a month. Every time this has happened for the past 6 years, I take care of her. Physical necessities like food, medicine, massages, and emotional necessities like listening, comfort, support, lots of hugs. 4 years into our marriage, my 13-year-old dog is diagnosed with congestive heart failure. I've had my baby girl since she was 2 months old. I spent a lot of time taking care of her and thousands on vet visits. I start not going on trips, not going out for some activities, and generally staying home a lot. Going to dinner or under 3-hour events were fine, but I generally didn't leave my dog alone for long. Because we were home so much, I would entertain myself when my wife went out with friends or she was doing things. But she had grown resentful more that we weren't doing anything because of the dog. This happened for 2 years. She felt like she sacrificed her life to come to a country she didn't want to be in or like. That it would be okay if I gave her the attention she deserved. She felt alone. This broke my heart. When my dog unalived, I was a mess, but I vowed to build a better family with her. We travelled for close to 3 months. We started planning to move somewhere and start exploring the world. I thought things were going great. I wasn't playing games anymore. We were very active again physically, and we were planning for the future. Then she dropped the divorce bomb on me a few days after my birthday. After seeing all the comments about bipolar 2, I think it's always been an active part of our relationship. I've seen this pattern before, but thought it was my fault. I have a hard time distinguishing what is a normal relationship and what is not at this point, or if I'm a piece of crap or not. From the outside perspective, our friends and family think I'm extremely good to my wife. From her perspective, not so much, depending on her mood. This is a very, very high-level overview, but hopefully gives more context and empathy towards her. Edit 4. Thank you everyone for your input. I read every single comment and message, though don't have the time to respond to all. All this feedback gave me pause and encouragement. The overwhelming majority of you have been supportive and practical. I will be applying what I've learned in the meantime and frequent a therapist more. I move out next Thursday and will provide an update on how things go when I'm settled. Wish me luck. What am I even reading here? Seriously, this whole situation is absolutely maddening. Let me tell you something. This is not just about moving out or a simple domestic spat. This is about a strong swirl of emotions and the complexities tied around understanding one another, or the lack of it. On top of that, the wife wants a divorce to find herself, but at the same time, she's angry that the husband is trying to move out so he can figure his own feelings. And here's where it gets ridiculous. She's blaming him for having the means to take that step. Like, who thought this was a good idea to begin with? Oh, and trust issues much? She refuses financial support due to fear of manipulation, yet won't find a way to solve her own stagnation. It's like being tethered by invisible ropes she has self-crafted. Damn, the frustration is palpable. And yet there's also this undercurrent of sadness. I know I'm not the only one losing it over this. If folks want to dive in, drop your thoughts below, because I need therapy after this.
Someone says, "You're not the a-hole. Your wife is struggling and needs therapy as soon as possible." I feel like she's projecting. Her claim that you're stealing anything by offering her financial support to achieve her own accomplishments, whether it's moving out or finding a creative career path, is actually quite delusional. I understand her sentiment that she can't stay in a relationship where she has started to develop feelings of hatred to a seriously concerning degree. However, as you describe the situation, I see no option for you to help her or save this relationship. She needs help, and you need distance from her. Stay strong.
OP responds. She is in therapy but doesn't want to go anymore. She is very distrusting of the medical system. My friends are telling me I need to really cut ties and move on. It's just emotionally difficult.
Good at 6336 says,
What has her therapist said about her mental health? It sounds like your wife is having a crisis because her reality is not what she expected. She clearly wants to be independent and self-sufficient, but by the sounds of it, she hasn't been in many years. I don't know your wife, but my instinct is that she doesn't want a divorce. Instead, she wants or needs to prove to herself that she can survive on her own without help from you. Up until now, she has been dependent on you. You have been really nice trying to provide support emotionally and financially, but her lashing out tells me she wants you to stop. Maybe let her do her own thing. If she wants to go to a hotel, let her. She wants the control of making a decision for herself and following through. If she wants to move out temporarily, let her. She needs to know she can take care of herself. Again, I don't know your wife. You may want to ask her if this would help before doing it.
OP responds,
In January, her therapist said she might have bipolar 2. She met with a specialist after that and it was confirmed. She's skeptical and doesn't undergo treatment. The main problem with her doing her own thing is the money, which she won't accept from me.
Someone says, "You're not the a-hole. Your wife might be having a mental breakdown or an identity crisis, which might fall under the same category. And she is putting all of her unhappiness onto you. From what you wrote, I think you have been more than understanding and accommodating towards her, and you've had a lot of patience. One can tell you still love her and hold out hope for reconciliation. The issue here is that she does not want your help, and she is extremely jealous of you for having your life together while hers is falling apart. I am going to repeat myself with this, but you've done your part. She rejected everything you offered and became very aggressive towards you. This is stemming from her insecurities, self-hatred, or whatever she is feeling towards herself at this moment. I think at this point, you should do what you think is best. By this, I mean pay for the house if you want her to have a place to stay, contribute to your common account, etc., whatever you think is in her best interest without consulting with her anymore. Tell her what you are going to do without asking for her permission or asking her what she thinks about it. You tried that, it didn't work, and then focus on yourself and your mental health. Move away if that's what is best for you. She is spiraling. I'm not saying you should abandon her. I think you can still keep on helping her however you see fit. I really appreciate you for doing that. It really shows you are a stand-up guy and only want her to be happy. But you should stop engaging with her and move your focus back on yourself. If she ever decides she needs your help or she is willing to talk things through, you can reevaluate then and see if you still want to. Set your boundaries and don't let yourself be dragged into her tornado. It will help you, and it will also help her in the long run. People need boundaries to be enforced onto them even in adulthood. The spiraling won't stop otherwise. Take care, original poster. I wish you all the best. OP responds, "My heart hurts reading this because it feels very accurate. Thank you." Wishing to be seen says, "Sorry, I know this is close to your heart and not easy, but reading this as an objective third party, I cannot understand what you're doing. I don't think she understood the gravity of divorce or separation when she initiated it, and it doesn't seem like she thought out her next steps. I think she's angry because she still feels stuck. In any case, this is not going to end well. You aren't going to suddenly overcome this as a couple, move forward, and live happily ever after together. She will never feel whole until she lives her life, and you need to let her go. She clearly has massive issues with communication and has a lot of growing to do. You need to be objective here. Zoom out to see the bigger picture and move on with your life now. You're not the a-hole." OPP responds, "When you said she doesn't understand the gravity of divorce, you're right. She thought it was something that just takes a few weeks. I don't know if she feels like since she said it now, she's ashamed to go back on that thought." A few months have passed since the last update, where a middle-aged man was dealing with the fallout of his impending divorce. Now, the OP returns with an update on his situation, and he shares, "Here is the previous post from a couple of years ago. It's been a long time, but I feel like it's finally due for an update after a couple of years. Fair warning ahead of time, this is long. Scroll to the end for a summary. My last post was about a week before my move across the country. Things were fairly cold after that night, but she begrudgingly helped me finish packing the moving pods. I also had to drive my car all the way to my new destination. She was uncomfortable with me driving alone and insisted she help with the drive. I agreed. We made a decision not to try to fix anything in our relationship and were basically two friends driving together for several days. When we got to my destination, we stayed in a hotel for a couple of nights and explored my new neighborhood. Things were sentimental, but we didn't try to resolve anything. She flew back home and, with tears in our eyes, we said goodbye. At the time, it actually felt kind of nice. It felt like maybe we just needed space and that things would eventually be okay. I started this journey in a new city with a lot of optimism. I tried right away to make friends and build some kind of social circle. I met up with strangers a few times a week and eventually found some people I enjoyed being around. I also made sure to stay active and take care of my physical and mental health. My wife and I talked regularly at first, almost every day. Pretty quickly, the conversations turned into the same blame cycles we'd always had. They usually ended with her crying and calling me names and me hanging up and crying in bed. We just kept going around and around like that. The only thing that really changed was that I slowly lost patience for talking to her. After a couple of months, we were mostly just texting once a day. I made it clear that if she wanted a divorce, she would need to be the one to take responsibility and initiate it. She refused. Although during this time she did manage to get a part-time job and was making enough money to cover food, gas, and her activities, I still covered everything else from afar, but her having a job helped me financially. My mum's birthday was coming up in May, and I planned to visit home for a few days. My mum's birthday and my wife's birthday are a few days apart. I told my wife I would be in town, and she asked if I wanted to go to a film festival with her the day before my mum's birthday. I agreed. You'll see that wanting to fix things and keep the peace has been a pattern for me in this relationship. Fast forward, and I'm back in my hometown. The dinner reservation I made for my mum's birthday ended up being the day before her actual birthday. The film festival I agreed to with my wife was scheduled to end about 4 hours before that dinner. I went to the festival, but things felt awkward between us. I told my wife about the timing of the dinner while we were there, and she got angry. She assumed that after the festival, my time would be hers. We never made that agreement. I apologized for the miscommunication and asked for some patience since it was my mum's birthday dinner. She waved me off and things were cold when I left. The next morning on my mum's birthday, my wife called me. We fought. She called me disrespectful and repeated the same thing she had said many times before. I let her vent and tried to listen. My therapist had been helping me work on setting boundaries, so I tried to do that calmly and respectfully. That just made her more angry, and eventually, she hung up on me. I wasn't going to let the day be ruined. I wanted to have a good day and took my mum out to lunch. As we were finishing lunch, I got a call from my wife's sister who lives in France.
It was weird for her to be calling me, so I picked up. She was frantic. She said something was wrong with my wife. They had been talking on the phone while my wife was at home, and she described my wife starting to make strange sounds before everything went silent. I tried calling my wife, but she didn't answer. I started to spiral and fear the worst. I called 911 and gave them all the information I could. I had no idea what was happening. I then called my neighbour, who fortunately picked up, and she told me that paramedics were already there and that my wife was being wheeled into an ambulance. She said my wife looked completely out of it. I spent the next few hours trying to figure out which hospital they took her to. When we finally found it, we rushed over. They let me back to see her as they were still running tests. But one thing was certain. She had a stroke. Mind you, at the time, she was only 38. It was clear early on that she didn't really want me there, but my immediate concern was her safety and well-being.
I stayed to handle the logistics and paperwork and make sure nothing fell through the cracks.
Eventually, she just wanted me to sit with her and comfort her. We spent a week in the hospital and even celebrated her birthday there. I told her I would stick around and help her recover for as long as she needed. That ended up being about 3 months. During those 3 months of living out of a suitcase in my old house, we didn't really try to resolve anything between us. The focus was almost entirely on her recovery, follow-up tests, and appointments. When our relationship did come up, it usually turned into the same old arguments. The difference this time was that I'd learned to walk away when things turned antagonistic or insulting. Over those months, she made about a 90% recovery, which is honestly insane, and I'm genuinely grateful for that. In mid-July, I told her I needed to be back in my home by August 1st because of plans I had made about 6 months earlier. I told her she was welcome to stay in the house and take as much time as she needed. She refused and said she wanted to move with me across the country. The caveat was that she didn't want to live in my place and wanted her own space. Thinking, again, that this might be what we needed to repair our marriage, I agreed. We spent the next 2 weeks frantically packing and getting the house ready to rent out. She moved with me to my new city and lived with me briefly while we found her a place. I helped her move in and get settled. I paid for everything then, and to this day, I still do. There were good days and bad days, good months and bad months.
Overall, things felt like they were improving, at least in my mind.
She even managed to start working full-time, which she hadn't done a single time in our almost 8 years of marriage. Health-wise, I would say she has made a near full recovery. She still has some sensory issues in stressful situations, but most people would be shocked to know she had a stroke just a year and a half ago. We still essentially had the same financial setup. I paid her rent, insurance, and major expenses. The money she made went toward utilities, food, gas, and whatever else she wanted to do. The following year and several months can best be described as stagnation, perpetual limbo. We were essentially friends who hung out, went to events, and ate meals together. There was zero romance or intimacy. Whatever love existed felt more familial than marital. I still held on to hope that we might pull through, but it wasn't until some deeper conversations with my therapist and a few friends in the last few months that I started to understand our dynamic more clearly. She weaponizes affection when she doesn't get what she wants, among other patterns I believe she unknowingly employs. I've slowly started pulling away in my desire to have a healthy marriage. As I pull back, she now seems to be pulling toward me, but I keep asking myself, to what end? At this point, I'm exhausted from chasing something that isn't going to materialize. She doesn't know this yet, or maybe she feels it. I honestly don't know. I've started preparing for divorce and connected with an attorney several weeks ago. I spoke to her father earlier today to let him know my intention to leave his daughter, but I also wanted to make it clear that he was still family to me. While he was sad, he understood and showed support. So here I am, spending my last Christmas with her, essentially isolated, alone, and ready to move on. Summary. I moved across the country and my wife stayed behind. I came back to visit and she had a stroke, so I stayed for months to take care of her. She eventually moved with me to my new city. Our relationship has been stagnant for well over a year, and I'm finally ready to move on. Edit 1. For those asking, how did you not leave sooner? What's wrong with you? You get nothing from her, etc. Fear of failure. Fear of being another statistic. Seeing my parents getting divorced at a young age and not wanting to be that. Pride. So many things in my thought processes that I think are quite human. My tolerance is just different, but in a bad way. These are things I've learned about myself over the last couple of years. Edit 2. Thanks to those for positive and supportive feedback. I am by no means looking for sympathy or validation in this situation. I've opened myself to the dredges of the internet for cathartic reasons. From the direct messages I've received, I know I'm not alone. I'm moving on with my life, and despite it all, I have changed for the better. I do hope everyone that has struggle or strife in their lives receives the support and empathy they need from those close to them. Feel free to message me directly if you need an open ear.
Oh my, where do I even begin with this saga?
The first thing that strikes me is this untenable situation between OP and his wife, and it's just, wow, a relentless cycle of blame and toxicity. I can't even believe this right now. After all these years, with the strokes, the arguing, the failed attempts at intimacy, seriously, one has to wonder, why did the charade continue for so long? And then there's the stroke part. Absolutely heartbreaking. I mean, are we serious right now? At 38, that's insane. But then OP handles it like some unwavering knight, sticking by her to nurse her back to health, even when it was clear the relationship remained frosty at best. Yet, here's the catch. OP is now planning a retreat, a withdrawal from this loveless theatre, finally ready to move on, and I can't help but feel a sense of relief for OP. Because at the end of the day, life's too short to be stranded in a relationship that drains more than it fuels. Did anyone else get to this point and just want to scream, "About bloody time"? If you have thoughts on this and you're feeling some kindred spirit frustration, sound off below. Because for crying out loud, what a tangled mess this was. And finally, it feels like there's a path to peace. OP, I wish you all the happiness and clarity as you move forward.
Giacomo says, it sounds like she's got a pretty sweet deal. I'm not sure what you're getting out of this situation. OP responds, yes, she is. I've come to terms with that. Moving on will be my solace. The next story comes from New Delivery 5704 in the Am I the Arsehole subreddit, and it says, am I the a-hole for telling my wife she shouldn't have married me if she expected intimacy? Hi, I'm a 29-year-old male, and I've been married to my wife, a 30-year-old female, for 2 years. This Thursday, I was watching TV as it was my day off. When my wife came back home from a sleepover with her best friend, I went to ask her how it was and if she had fun. But she immediately started yelling at me that she deserved way better. She said I was a pathetic excuse for a man who couldn't even fulfill her needs. I asked her to calm down and stop yelling at me. I asked her where this was coming from, because she never told me she felt this way. I asked her to sit down so we could talk, but she refused. She stared at me for a while and said her friend Amelia helped her realize I wasn't enough for her, that I wasn't good enough, and that she could do better. So I just asked her what was the point of even marrying me if she expected intimacy. She didn't even answer me. She went to our bedroom, packed her bag, and left, leaving me here feeling stupid. Honestly, I didn't know whom to tell about this. I feel so embarrassed, if that makes sense. I don't even want to tell my friends. I feel so ashamed and inadequate. Relevant info. I'm asexual, which my wife knew before we even started dating. I've never been comfortable with intimacy after being SA'd when I was younger, which I thought my wife understood. She seemed okay with it and was happy with me showing her love in other ways. Dates, flowers, long talks, etc. Which now I know wasn't the case. My wife's sister has been messaging me, saying that I'm condescending and that I dismissed my wife, that I'm a jerk. I think we might be heading for a divorce. Am I the jerk? My wife has never acted this way before. It felt like there was a stranger in my wife's body. Sorry if this post is a mess. My thoughts are a mess. Where do I even start with this one? Right, so here's the thing. Communication is absolutely the bedrock of any relationship. But it seems like this ship was already sinking and someone just poured more water in it. First off, let me say this. Your wife knew you were asexual before you two even began dating. This isn't some new revelation that turned up halfway through the marriage. And the worst part is, she's getting advice from her friend Amelia as if a sleepover is the perfect time to play the ruin the marriage game. Seriously, what the hell?
Are we just letting friends dictate the path of our marriages now? But hold on, let me touch on your beautiful attempt at communication before she bolted to pack her bags. You asked a very valid question about why she even chose this path with you. She couldn't answer because perhaps she didn't have an answer or didn't care to acknowledge it. You deserve a partner who respects your boundaries and choices, not someone swayed easily by outside opinions. And for crying out loud, this kind of behaviour, where's the accountability? Listen, I understand you're feeling embarrassed and ashamed, but really, this is on her, not on you. So right now, you need to focus on yourself. You're not the jerk. No way, no how. And if Amelia and her band of judgmental sisters think otherwise, then maybe they should try stepping into the shoes of understanding first. I think if this heads to divorce, it's her loss. Honestly, the whole situation is absurd. At the end of the day, everyone deserves to be loved for who they are, not for what they can provide. And if her view of intimacy is so surface level, then maybe, just maybe, you're better off without someone so easily swayed. Get your head up. You did nothing wrong here. Someone says, so my husband and I are both on the ACE spectrum, but in different places. I knew where I was before we married. He didn't. Then some other things happened, so I'm familiar with the not all relationships involve or need intimacy concept. It sounds like your wife's friend influenced her negatively. Your wife is an adult and is responsible for her actions, but this influence seems to have originated from the friend. A lot of people, especially heterosexual people, genuinely don't understand the ACE part of the spectrum. So my attempt to be sympathetic is that she was concerned for your wife and managed to hit some of her insecurities. The unsympathetic take is that she knew about your abuse and figured you should man up for your wife. Either way, I don't like the friend much. I'm also betting that's who your wife went to stay with. If the friend was at your wedding, she probably promised to support your relationship, so she's already broken one promise. Your sister-in-law is probably getting whatever version of events your wife is telling. If you've been a pleasant brother-in-law for 2 years, you'd think she would be able to handle a, hey, my sister's pretty angry, are you okay? Phone call. But I guess that's more hopeful than realistic. At the very least, she should be willing to acknowledge that you both probably have rather different outlooks on this. You are not the a-hole. Your wife's friend and your wife are definitely the a-holes. What happens to your marriage kind of depends on what happens now. But do you want to stay married to someone who, 1, is so easily swayed, and 2, went straight to, what is this relationship doing for me, rather than seeing her spouse as a whole person with needs and dreams? Because you aren't an intimacy vending machine either. No spouse is, and there are plenty of things that can disrupt even a relatively normal, intimate life. If you don't have a personal therapist, I suggest you get one. This is a good time to put together a Team You, people who support you and love you for who you are. You need support. OP responds, I'm going to start therapy again. I did call my friend and he's going to make the long drive to see me right now, which I really appreciate. I honestly don't know what my wife's friend said to her, but right now it kind of feels surreal. One minute, my wife is waving goodbye to me, excited about a sleepover with her friend. The next minute, she's yelling at me, telling me she can do way better. I hope she is okay though, and she is safe wherever she went. I'm going to talk to my friend about whether I want to stay with my wife. Just a day later, the OP provides an update regarding the situation, stating, Hi, I have an update. I want to thank everyone who reached out to me and gave me advice. Even if I didn't respond to your direct message, I read it. Thank you to the people who shared their experiences and stories. It helped more than you know. I want to start by saying my friend did manage to drive to see me, and he's currently here right now. He took some time off for me. Honestly, last night was a blur, and I couldn't stop crying. That sounds very pathetic, but I'm glad my friend was with me because I don't know what I would have done without him. He's been my rock throughout this. He's always been my rock. He was the first person I told when I got sexually assaulted and convinced me to tell someone and get help. He also didn't congratulate me when it happened. I just wanted to share that, mainly because of the other people who shared their stories with me. I wanted to share mine. We hugged for a while. I think I needed a hug. For this post, I'll be calling my friend Noah to make this post less confusing so I don't have to write my friend over and over again. Noah came to the same conclusion as most of you guys did, that my wife was cheating on me. He asked me what I wanted to do, and I decided I didn't want to stay with her. I just can't. So we will be getting divorced, and I will be filing and getting a lawyer. We talked about many things, and I admitted to him I felt isolated, because when my wife and I first got married, we moved really far from everyone I knew. To the point, I have no family or friends in the area, which has been very lonely.
Noah admitted to me that a lot of our friends dislike my wife. So I asked him to explain, and he said he never liked the way she talked to me. But he didn't want to say anything because I seemed happy. He said I could crash at his place. He said it wasn't healthy if I stayed here alone, so yeah, we're currently packing my things right now. We also just talked about life in general. He asked me once everything is over if I wanted to go on vacation with him. I think that would be nice. I feel like it is a sort of escape. I just feel so drained and tired. My sister-in-law has been messaging a lot since everything has happened, and honestly, I don't want to read her messages. I also know my wife and I will need to talk eventually. But right now, I just don't want to. Sorry if this post isn't the long, dramatic post that some of you expected. Some direct messages said I need to confront my wife and demand the truth. But right now, for my own sake, I'd rather be willingly ignorant. I don't want to know if she cheated or not. Sorry about my grammar in advance. It's the middle of the night and I'm tired. I fixed the title of the post because a lot of you pointed out I used of instead of have. I just want you to know I saw your messages. I will post an update if anything else happens.
Wife of Bath, 1984, says, I'm so sorry. Block your sister-in-law. You're not married to her. You owe her nothing, and she needs to mind her own damn business. Don't read the messages. Have your friend block her so you don't have to see them. OP responds, yeah, I'm gonna do that. I don't think it's good for me if I read them. A Reddit user says, take care of yourself and let Noah take care of you. Sounds like he's a good egg. Best wishes. OP provides more information in the comments by stating, he's a good person. I'm glad I met him. He's been with me when I was at the lowest point of my life.
Man, what a whirlwind. First off, gratitude to everyone who reached out to OP. It just goes to show how the internet can actually be a place of support, as chaotic and messy as it often seems. And boy, this final chapter was all kinds of raw, wasn't it? I mean, hugs were doled out and emotional walls were broken down. Friendship has rarely felt so heroic. Honestly, the courage here is palpable. Now, for a swift pivot, I want to extend a big thank you to you all, my faithful viewers. If I'm not alone in feeling all these feels, let's keep the ball rolling. Drop your thoughts below because I'm honestly curious about how you all process these kinds of emotional roller coasters. And remember to pound that like button if this story pulled at your heartstrings. If you're game for more of my heartfelt rants and wild rides through the depths of human experience, don't forget to hit that